WNST, Towson, Baltimore. Because this guy and I, we don't get together and talk much radio, but he has been doing some color here in recent weeks for the Baltimore Ravens, along with some other former Ravens alums. He's one of my favorite all-time Ravens. He doesn't believe that when I tell him that, but that's okay. We welcome Jarret Johnson back on to not only talk about Pittsburgh week and the big win over the Lions and his emerging voice of the Ravens color commentary, along with Justin Forsett and Dennis Pitt and Todd Heap, but also Alabama getting into this tournament, Jarret Johnson. So lots of meat on the bone for you and I to get after. How you been, pal? Looks like retirement or semi-retirement's treating you pretty well.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, man. Things are good. I keep busy, and I mean that's all you can ask for is have something to get up early in the morning and something to do that day, something to work on, you know?
Well, even your Chargers alums are doing okay out there at this point. But
they're playing well.
I mean, you've been spending a lot of time with the Ravens, so let's just go through this. I mean, what you inherit here in November is a team that looks like a bad football team, kind of beaten up. Offense can't get out of its own way, trying to get players back onto the field and getting guys healthy. And now you look up 3 weeks later after beating a couple of backup quarterbacks and finally, I think, proving something on Sunday in beating Matt Stafford in a home game that now looks galvanized to go on one of these famous Joe Flacco January runs where we're going to go on the road and be trouble for somebody in January.
You know, I'm really hoping so. And they're definitely playing good at the right time of year. Definitely was a very inconsistent football team in the middle part of the season. Beat up early, had a lot of injuries, had to deal with that, playing some young guys and stuff like that. But I think the offensive line has played better than people anticipated. I think they're getting healthier as the year goes on, and Joe is playing better going into December, which is what he's always done. This team has always played well at the end of the year. Now we need them to continue doing that, but they're definitely on the upswing, and definitely feel more confident about this team now than you did, say, week 5.
Well, the Lions have had trouble defensively. I mean, there's no secret to that. What did you like about the effort on Sunday, Jarret? For me, it's just the fact that Flacco had a little bit of time. And the thing that I like the most about the receiving core is the veteran nature of this thing now. As much as we didn't see as much of Macklin, he missed a couple games. Obviously, Wallace got hit in the head. And through the middle of the year, when we're running around with Campanaro and Griff Whalen, and no disrespect to Chris Moore, who's emerged at this point, but that's a whole different set of weapons than we're taking into Pittsburgh on Sunday night this week.
Yeah, no doubt. What I liked about yesterday is the defense continued to create turnovers. This defense is, now you wouldn't say they're as elite as the 2000 Ravens or the 2006 Ravens. They're not going to be ranked in every category and top of the league and everything. But what they are is they are ranked top of the league at creating turnovers, and you're going to take that. I'm going to take that all day long. I'd rather be ranked 10th against the run, 8th against the pass, and number 1 in creating turnovers, because that is the most important thing. They've rushed the passer better as the year has gone on. Matt Judon has become one of the top players on the defense by far. Terrell's continue to play at a high level. And you're getting guys, Willie Henry, some young guys, they're starting to contribute, and then Brandon Williams, and Michael Pierce continued to play well up front. So I'm excited about them. And the other thing I think is very important for this team is when we're able to create shots downfield. It seems like every time we've hit a big ball to Mike Wallace down the field, we've won the football game. So those are the two important things for me. Overall, is defensively continue creating turnovers, and can the offense hit at least one shot? It seems to open up the running game and definitely adds juice to this offense.
Number 95 in your program, number 1 in your heart. You welcome Double J back on to WNST. Jarret Johnson calling some Ravens action and been around the team a little bit here in recent weeks. Dude, Suggs never going to go away, right? I mean, and more than that. And look, I haven't over the course of his career been the biggest fan of his. And I think in the afterglow of Ray and Ed, there was always a question, well, he's pretty good, but how good is he? Boy, oh boy, I mean, this year here has he's now almost a surefire Hall of Famer because of this afterglow and this second act after these incredibly heinous injuries. And, I mean, you played through all these injuries. You played alongside him. You played against him. What he's doing right now is really an exclamation mark that I don't think maybe you even saw coming from him, even when you realized what a dominant player he was. After those injuries on a body frame of his size, you would just think, well, he's not going to be able to do this at 35, 36 years. Well, look out. He's doing it, and he's doing it in a way that I don't think we've ever seen a player of this size and stature 15 years in get after a quarterback the way he is right now.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's Wolverine. I mean, he just continues to somehow regenerate and continue to play at a high level. He looks phenomenal. I don't know what his weight is, but he was a smaller guy. I'm not going to say small, but, he was a 255, 260-pound player his first couple years in the league. And then naturally, as he got older, he got into his mid-20s, he put on some weight. And then, years 7, 8, 9, I mean, he was a big boy. I mean, he was pushing 280, 290, which for me was too big. He continued to play well. But the good thing is as Terrell's gotten older, his weight has come down. He's learned how to manage his body. He eats really well. He stays in the weight room. Every older player that I played around that played, 10, 12, 13 plus years, they all knew how important nutrition was and taking care of their body was, and that's what he's done. The interesting thing to me watching Terrell is he was always a giant 4-year-old. I mean, he was always that puppy dog following Ray around. He was always cutting up. He was always silly, brought energy to practice. It's funny seeing him now when he's the older guy and you see all the puppies following him.
Yeah, I didn't know he had this in him, right? I mean, and maybe you didn't either, this leadership role that I didn't see. But, hey, and Jarret, I mean, you may confirm this or not, but Ed Reed was also a guy that used to hide around the corner, didn't get along with Billick, didn't get along with people, and then all of a sudden Harbaugh somehow got him to become this guy that was taking the Kerry Williams of the world and leading them to a different level. That's what Suggs is now, and I didn't see this in him either. And, maybe that's something if all of us get into our 30s, or in my case, into my late 40s now, and you do become a different kind of person no matter what you were and how crazy you were when you were 23 or 24. Most of us were crazy when we were 23 or 24, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's an accurate description of Ed. Ed definitely had some mood swings. I mean, Ed, you always had to look at the hood. If the hood was on, leave him alone. If the hood was off, he's cool. You can visit with him, talk with him, cut up, whatever. But Ed was always a good leader. He was always really good to the young guys. He was great with me.
But I don't think there was a lot of oxygen for him with Ray being there. And then Dion coming. I mean, I think it was tough for Ed to be a leader until he had that opportunity very late in his career.
Yeah, I think that stuff kind of gets overhyped, in the media world. I don't think that's real accurate. Ed was always a really good leader. He definitely was a moody guy. Terrell, I think, is more of a, Terrell did not have to be that guy, his first 10 years in the NFL. He just had to go be Terrell. He just had to go play. He could still cut up. He could still have fun. He could still, do whatever he wanted. He didn't have to stand up and lead, even though he did at times. And I would consider him obviously a leader on the team, but he wasn't viewed as that because he didn't have to, because you had a Ray around. Ray was always the one up front of the team and stuff. But it has been refreshing and very cool for me to see him embrace that role. And it's funny to me watching these young guys like a Matt Judon and some of these guys who follow behind Terrell and look up to him the way that the way that he did for so many years to a Pete Boulware or to an AD or something like that. So it's pretty cool to see. There's no doubt he's a Hall of Famer. I think he was a Hall of Famer before, if he would have retired after 12 years. But the way that he's consistently played at a high level, even into year 15, he's definitely a Hall of Famer.
Are you a believer? I mean, do you believe this team can go steal a game in Nashville or Tennessee and then go beat Pittsburgh or New England in January? I mean, that's a question I gave to Joe because Joe started talking about the Super Bowl last week that, hey, we're not just trying to stumble into this thing and, get to a playoff game and lose. That's not what's going on here. I think it's hard to talk about winning the Super Bowl when you're a sub-500 team and beating up on backup quarterbacks. I think it's a different conversation we've now entered, and this Pittsburgh game will be a real nice measurement for them on Sunday night.
I absolutely think they can be a team that can go win some playoff games and win a Super Bowl. And I base that solely on the fact of the 2012 team. They were not that good of a regular season team. I played against that team. I was with the Chargers that year, and we lost to them because they converted a 4th and 29 on a check down to Ray Rice. They had no business winning that game and found a way to do it. But if you go back and look at that whole season, they were 10-6. And they were, I don't know, 3 or 4 games that they pulled out on freak wins like that one. So going into the playoffs that year, you could have easily overlooked them. But what they did do is they did win those games. They found a way to win that year against Dallas that had like 3 or 4 opportunities on the goal line that they botched. They should have beat the Ravens. And there was 3 or 4 other games that I can't remember. But that team just made it to the playoffs. They just got in. But when they did make the playoffs, they were playing at an extremely high level. And that was the best 7-game streak that Joe Flacco had in his career. So can he do that again? Absolutely he can. Why couldn't he? This defense has showed glimpses as being an elite defense. I mean, definitely the way they turn the ball over. And when you got a defense that can get turnovers like that, you always got a chance to win. So I absolutely have confidence in them going into the end part, into the season and into the playoffs. They can definitely go win some games.
One of my favorites, Double J, joining us here, Jarret Johnson. He's been calling some Ravens action. He's been around the team a little bit. Wanted to check in with him. Your boy Eric Weddle has been a wonderful addition to the entire program here and bringing along another fellow Charger in Woodhead. And to see the offense now with Woodhead at least, and maybe you can speak to this on the defensive side of the ball, just him out there creates attention, right? You don't have to give him the ball. Just having that kind of a weapon, that sort of a mismatch for some linebackers, some safeties, in any case coming out of the backfield, it does change the way defenses have to play the Ravens, right?
Yeah, you always have to account for Danny. Now, Danny has been hurt. He's been out for the majority of the year, so he hasn't had a lot of touches. Obviously, they don't have the game film on him to really have to account for him. But when Danny when I played with him at San Diego, he was a problem. I mean, you had to account for him at all times. You had to figure out a way to handle Danny Woodhead. You couldn't put a linebacker on him. If you put a linebacker on Danny, it was a completion. It was, you couldn't cover the guy. His ability in pass protection for a smaller guy was phenomenal. He's a cerebral player. He knows all the protections. He knows how to communicate. But he is best out of the backfield receiving the football. Now, we haven't had an opportunity to do that with him a whole lot. Definitely not as the way that Phillip was able to do it, to use him in San Diego. But I think that's coming. I think now that he's just now getting back on the field, getting healthy, he's had a couple games under his belt. He's stressed that hamstring and has obviously played well. So I'm hoping as the year goes on that he's going to become a weapon for this offense, and he's going to help us out. If he does, he's going to really help this offense out.
Big step up for your Alabama pal and Marlon Humphrey here with Jimmy Smith going down. Incredibly unfortunate for the whole program, for everybody, because of how much work he put in. I would say he's been the best player on the Ravens this year through 12 weeks. Gets injured. Now we hear the PED situation on Monday morning. But nonetheless, there is a next man up thing happening in the secondary here and a big challenge ahead, certainly against Pittsburgh this week.
Yeah, this team is going to have to, or this room is going to have to step up as a whole and make up for a loss for Jimmy Smith. You can't replace that talent. His physical ability to match up week in and week out against another team's number one receiver. You just can't account for that. So what you got to do is you got to, as a room, make up for him. You got to, put safeties over the top. You got to bracket guys, young guys like Marlon Humphrey is going to have to step up. Levine, who you've seen having more of a role in the defense, he's going to have to come in and help in bracket-type situation, underneath-type coverages, as you want to call him, a robber or a bandit or whatever you want to call it. But you can't account for the loss of that physical talent, though.
All right, man. Well, we're in this thing with 4 to play. We'll be listening out for you. And Alabama, they're like a wet boogie, right? You can't get rid of them. You lose the Iron Bowl, get to skip the SEC championship, and here we go. Well, off to New Orleans we go for everybody, right?
I know. I love it. Just keep pissing them off. Everybody stays mad about Alabama. I compare Alabama to the early 90s Buffalo Bills, when they just kept winning. They were in it every year. They lost 4 straight Super Bowls. And for some reason, people just, I don't know if it's because they're not a mainstream, big market team, but it just made people mad that they were in it. And people, I was walking to the hotel this morning, and there was a woman ranting downstairs to the bellman about Alabama being in the national or in the playoffs. I loved it. It just made me smile. It's like, yeah, we're a good team. Deal with it.
It's
we
Saban.
lost.
It's not liking Saban. He's the constant there. I have nothing against Crimson. I have nothing against you or Ozzie or Phil Savage or anybody else that has anything to do with Alabama. CJ. I mean, I tend to like all of you. It's Nick that we don't like. Really. I think that's it.
But why?
It's the Belichickian thing, I think. Yeah. I really do.
People just hate a winner, man. I mean, the guy is. It's amazing how he's continued to recruit consistently every year. They don't have the fall off like Jimbo Fisher did at Florida State. I mean, he inherited a good team, he had a good run, and then that cupboard is dry. I don't know what they have done to those players. Alabama with Nick, they continue to recruit at a high level, and they develop good players, and it is just a steady. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's incredible to watch. Are we as good as we were in the last few years? Yeah, I don't think so, but I'm just happy to be in it, and I'm glad we're keeping people on their toes.
Look, man, if I had you on every week, I wouldn't ask you a stupid question like this, but because we only get together once a year, and I haven't seen you in a long time, just to have like a nice chat with you and catch up and go to Amici's and get some red sauce or something. But what's the best fish you've ever caught? I mean, I know you're a fishing guy. Like
the best to eat?
But no, you go out, looking for an experience, right. It's like winning the best football game or a memorable thing. You're searching for something out on that boat. You're looking for a fish bigger or better, or I'm just trying to understand the psychology of this. Is there one moment that was a fishing Super Bowl for you?
I don't know. I've been on a lot of really good trips. I fish a lot. I've seen some pretty cool stuff. I would say.
Is there something you could catch that would be like, oh my God, today was the greatest day I've ever had on the water? Yeah. I'm just asking. That's all.
I don't know. I've caught bluefin tuna. I've caught blue marlin. I've been white marlin fishing here out of Ocean City. I've done a lot of the big game stuff. I enjoy, the flats fishing more, redfish and trout and stuff like that. I don't know. I love all of it. I get asked that a lot, like, what's my favorite fish?
It's the act of doing it, not necessarily what you catch, right? Literally.
Lately I've got into fly fishing a little bit, and there's definitely an art to it. It's definitely more difficult. I've kind of enjoyed that lately, but I don't know. I mean, I definitely have some trips that I want to do that I have a bucket list type thing.
Okay.
But I don't know. I can't really put. I would probably say the coolest thing that I've done yet would be going bluefin tuna fishing in Nova Scotia. But I don't know. They're all cool, man. I enjoy every day that I'm on the water.
It's a big world. There's a lot of water on it, Jarret, for you.
That's right.
Hey, man,
lots of fish to be caught.
Miss you around here. Great to hear the sound of your voice, even if it does associate with Alabama, but I love having you on, man.
There you go.
Jarret Johnson, Double J, number 95 in your program, joining us here. He's not on Twitter, so I would say, go follow Double J. Nah, leave Double J alone. You know where he is? He's fishing right now. I wish I could fish instead of being on Twitter. You can find me out in the BuyItToyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from wherever you happen to be. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Any breaking news? Well, you get that first on the WNST text service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday, driving you home, getting you ready for Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh. That's where we'll be on Sunday night. Luke and I will be at the Confluence all week long. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. I'm Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.